Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Just starting the radio side there, because we kind of need that. Richard Elmore, Vinman, what's happening? And Kwame Cromarty, how's it going? Pix. And who else is here? And let's see here. On the Rocks with Michael Godblowold. Welcome to our channel. Welcome to our channel. Cecil, good to have you here. Moist Alien, feeling moist tonight. Major Lee, what's happening? Who else has snuck on in here? Jice Dog Football, score prediction. How are you? Good morning as you're from Liverpool. The Commonwealth, Manuel Silva. Nice to have you here. Pepper H. Nice to see you back. And, the gorgeous Jenny. We love it when you're here. We got just a couple of seconds to go here, about 25 seconds. And let's see here. The gorgeous Kathy Evans has returned. And let's go here. Who else is here? That's it. We're caught up. Oh, Eric Austin sneaking on in. The Gorgeous Wagon, November 3rd. Super Chats are open. It's a good way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And it's about that time, people. Do us a favor. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. All right, we got a great show for you lined up tonight. Tom Whitmore is here, joins us to talk about the elusive and secretive Mj12. Then in hour number 3, we will bring you another spooky story from the swamp, courtesy of Swamp Dweller. Bigfoot Rob is back for more exciting cryptid encounters. Dave 101 and Shirky Poo's got the news. Now, Tom Whitmore is no stranger to this show. He is a member of MUFON since 1990 and has served as a MUFON State Section Director for Texas. He is also on the MUFON Board of Directors since 1995. He's a former chartered financial analyst and a former CEO of a major financial institution as well. This man knows what he is talking about. But he's got one passion that many, many people may not know. It's about government secrets. The big one, Mj12. For those who've never heard of it, we're going to learn about it tonight. For those who do know about it, it's going to be an update on what Tom has learned as the past few years. He has spent most of his waking time dreaming, salivating, searching, researching Mj12. Mr. Tom Whitmore, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you, my friend?
Dave, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. It's a blast to be on your show, and it's a privilege. Thank you.
It is always a privilege to have you here, and we should let our audience know, too, that you will be in attendance for the Las Vegas Spaced Out Radio Party, which is going to be a lot of fun, April 22nd to 24th. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, Tom. I look forward to sitting you down at the poker table and taking some of your chips away. I do.
I'm going to lose a lot. If I play poker, I'm going to lose. I can guarantee you.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. The main thing is it's about bringing together friends who only know each other on the internet. And, through this whole thing that we call ufology and the supernatural, paranormal, a lot of us have never had the opportunity to meet face to face. So to be able to meet you, a mentor and a friend of mine, I look very much forward to that. Tom, let us get started here. You're a member of MUFON, and you've been there for 30 years, 32 years. That's a long time for any type of commitment. Not only that, you're on the board of directors, and you are someone who is very, very highly respected within the field of ufology. Looking back 32 years ago to where you are today, you have seen so many changes in the entire field. What have you liked about what you've seen, and what have you disliked?
I think I've liked the camaraderie of my friends in MUFON, people that I've known for many years, both at the local level and at the national level. And there's a level of collegiality and camaraderie on the board of directors, and that's something that I've really enjoyed doing. Something that it's not exactly what I like, but I'm cognizant of these phases that we go through in the UFO subject and the UFO problem. And one of them is the idea that there's going to be disclosure. Disclosures are right around the corner. And this pops up from time to time. It was going on when I first got into the UFO field, way back in the late 80s and early 90s. And it quieted down for a long, long time. And then now here it is again after 2017. So I've enjoyed seeing the cycles in the UFO field a lot. And I've enjoyed really developing a UFO library and a UFO bibliography that I can refer to. My angle on all this is more intellectual. I'm really not a field investigator type anymore. And I'm not an experiencer. I've never had a sighting, but I'm very much intrigued with the intellectual challenges in the UFO subject.
I want to ask you, and you know as well as I do, I was very, very highly critical a number of years ago regarding the actions in the previous regime of MUFON. But since Dave McDonald has taken over, and I know you guys received some criticism there, not from me, but just from other parts of the UFO world, I have really, really enjoyed watching MUFON start to step back out into the forefront a little bit. I'm getting press releases from you guys. I'm getting notifications that there's interest in getting into the media world, whereas the last regime really just didn't seem to just wanted peace, love, and light rather than bring MUFON into the media front, the spotlight after 50 years of high intense investigation and being the big boys on campus. I really like this new direction, Tom. It feels refreshing to me. And as someone who was very critical about MUFON a number of years ago, I'm just so happy to see what you guys are doing.
I'm glad to hear that, Dave. And we have been making an effort to get more of a public presence out there. And this is particularly important now with our current situation. Since 2017, and we've had the emergence of TTSA and Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and the work that they've been doing, and having the kind of legislation that's come out of the Congress just recently. The UFO scene is really emerging into the public eye, and so we definitely want to be part of that. I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement, and things do take time. But as long as you're trending in the right direction, that's all anybody can expect. You have to trend. If you make enough left turns, you're going to have to make a right every now and again. and I really see that happening, and I'm excited about it. And I really like the fact that you guys are starting to, question everything that's going on and say, hey, media, we're over here. We're 54 years in. Come talk to us. We got some stuff we'd like to say to you guys. I like that. I think it's, pardon my language, it's ballsy. It's something that we're not used to seeing. And I think it's a positive step to kind of reclaiming where the TTSA kind of bullied you guys out of the way, in my opinion. And now that they're all for naught and ended up being a big joke outside of the three who left, I really do believe that this is your time to shine.
Well, thank you. And it's only fair that people come to us if they need opinion or they need a comment. If you're a journalist and you need background on the UFO subject, if you need a quote, if you're working on a story, it's only fair that they come to us. And it's been a little frustrating to me at times when people are asked on a lot of these internet shows, they'll say, well, where should someone go if they want to get involved in the UFO field? And they'll name several organizations, but not name MUFON. So we are reaching out, and this is the time to do it.
It really is exciting times. Tom, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm not excited about the report in the U.S. government, the AOI-MSG. I think that this program has a real opportunity to take ufology back to like we're partying like it's 1949 again. And we're searching for answers, and they want to sweep everything under the rug and keep things secret and hidden with no more videos. I mean, we've already heard that story come out that if they get their way, there's not going to be any more videos. There's not going to be any leaks of information. We're not going to know what's happening on cruise ships for the United States Navy going out into these areas of training and having tic tacs surrounding them. I mean, are we in a dangerous time for UFOs as this battle goes between public officials and the military, or are you guys prepared as MUFON to pick up the load if the government shuts down this topic again?
Dave, today I went through the legislation, this Section 1683, the establishment of an office, organizational structure, and authorities to address unidentified aerial phenomena. This has come out of the Congress. And I think it's going to be extremely interesting to see how these two items interact. It's almost like you have an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. And on the DoD side, they have tried to front run this. And it's not the first time that they've done that. They did that back during the GAO investigation on Roswell back in the 90s, and they came out with the Roswell report ahead of time, and they were never asked to do that. The GAO didn't come to them and ask the Air Force to produce a report, but they did it to try to front run the whole issue. So now we have on the DoD side the bureaucracy. It's almost like they're setting up barriers or barricades in the UFO street to keep from having to release any information and to keep from having to be hassled with this whole subject. And yet on the congressional side, they have a list of things that they expect the Department of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence to do. And it really is very impressive. I've got to say, Dave, in all the years that I've been in UFOs, this legislation is the most significant thing that I've seen happen in relation to government in the whole time that I've ever been in the UFO scene, and I think probably in the whole 70 years of modern UFO history. And I'll tell you why. During the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of UFO activity. There were many reports coming into the Air Force. The Air Force wanted to get out of the subject, and there was actually a congressional hearing or two, and there was a symposium at the Congress about UFOs. and they wrote up the minutes of these, and that was it. But they didn't pass legislation insisting that the Department of Defense and that the Director of National Intelligence collect information and analyze information and report that information back to the Congress. This is really a significant development. And now we have to see how that's going to interact with this preemptive action that's being taken on the DoD side.
And I agree with you, Tom. I think it's phenomenal. And especially being up here now, hearing, one of our members of Parliament, Larry McGuire, opening up about UAP over Canadian nuclear power facilities, I think the ball or that door is starting to open. And we need more of that. We need more transparency on that. However, the big thing here is I can't believe that there are people siding with the legislation, but they're still okay with the military wanting to say, hey, you civilians, you don't worry about that UAP stuff. We'll take care of it from here. And, you just go about your day, go pet your dog, go, watch your cat lick its paws, go make yourself a steak dinner on the barbecue and watch the football game. We got this. Don't look up in the sky. Those are just satellites or Elon Musk's little projects. Don't worry about it. If you see little gray dudes in your room, it's just a nightmare. I mean, that's literally what they want us to go back to. And I don't like it. I really don't like it.
Well, I don't like it either, but they're being consistent. They have always been that way. They're, as far as I can tell, Dave, there is no fundamental change from the Department of Defense bureaucracy perspective. I don't see any fundamental change in their policy, in their outlook, in their attitude, and in their approach. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people in the Defense Department that are in favor of greater transparency and greater disclosure. But the old time and old line policies are still in effect. And the policy is don't get into the subject. Keep it out of the public eye if at all possible. And this goes all the way back to the Robertson Panel report in the 1950s.
Does MUFON have a plan, Tom, that if the U.S. military gets their way, and let's say that first report is absolutely garbage, there's nothing there but hot air balloons, satellites, swamp gas, and maybe the odd Chinese lantern and Russian missile. All right. Does MUFON have a plan where you guys will be putting out any sort of release, either supporting or showing any type of emotion towards what that report may say? Now, I realize you have to see what the report says before you can react to it, but I'm very curious if there is a plan in action for MUFON to take a side on publicly on what happens with that next one.
Yes, we will comment on the reports as they come out, and we did have a public comment on the first report that came out in June 2021, that we were underwhelmed with it. And I suspect that's going to be the case in the future. It's hard to imagine that the public would be giving any really interesting information about this situation. But here's the thing, Dave. This legislation that has been passed has directed them, the DoD and the directors of national intelligence, to provide regular reports, and they can be both unclassified and have a classified annex. But here's the interesting thing: the legislation directs them to provide classified briefings to the so-called Gang of Eight, the heads of these committees, different committees in the Congress. And they should be getting regular classified briefings. Now, I would hope that on the DoD side and on the intelligence agency side, that they'll be more forthcoming with properly vetted and properly cleared members of Congress who should be getting this information. Now, here's the thing. Over time, maybe in the short run, but maybe in the longer run, I'm hoping that we'll have congressional people, congressmen and women and staff actually getting the really good information, and their consciousness, their understanding of the whole subject is going to increase mightily, and that might make a difference in the long run.
Are you guys going to have a presence in Washington, D.C., much like Stephen Bassett is, in order to try and get a hold of people like Rubio or Burchett or Gillibrand or anybody like that to sit down with them and say, hey, we're hearing that this is going to be shut down. We've been doing this for 54 years. You know it's real. You wouldn't have got it into the public budget if it wasn't real. Are you going to be scratching the public's back on this? Have you guys tried that, or am I just being way too optimistic that it's very easy to do that with a group of your size?
I'm going to give you a scoop, Dave.
Okay.
Dave McDonald went to Washington last week, and he was invited by several Congress people and staff, and he went through a flurry of meetings. Now, I can't tell you any more than that because I don't know any more than that. I just know that he went, and I'm sure that publicly we'll all hear about this at some point.
That is interesting. How long was he there for?
Several days, 2 or 3 days of meetings.
And were and I'm going to dance around this a little bit because you just, perked up every nose hair that I have right now, Tom, to be honest. But are you, without going into detail, were they the same?
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Senators and congresspeople that we were used to seeing, or is this a new batch that are really interested in seeing and learning what this is all about because they might not be able to get it from the military side?
It was a different batch, and they were very, very interested, very enthusiastic about learning more about the subject and learning about MUFON's role and the part that we play in the UFO field.
Tom, that's huge for you guys at MUFON. That really is. I mean, I'm actually stunned to hear this in a very good way.
Uh-huh. And I decided to disclose that, but I really don't have, and I'm not withholding anything. It's just that I don't have any more information to give you. But I do think it's important.
No, and thank you so much for sharing that. And we got about 90 seconds here before we need to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Tom Whitmore is our guest. Tom, out of everything that you have studied within ufology the last 32 years that you've been involved, it all comes down to Mj12. We're going to get deep into this the next half hour, but let's tease the audience here a little bit. How did you first find out about this secret of Mj12?
I was walking down the street one day and I saw a UFO magazine in the window, and I bought it. I went home and read it, and it was actually a bunch of rumors that were being spread around by this guy named Bill Cooper. At the time, it was Bill Cooper and John Lear that were spreading these rumors, but it was all about how the government had this secret program, and they were in touch with aliens, and they had these secret bases and all of these different projects. Well, that perked up my interest, and I saw a TV program in the late 80s called UFO Cover-Up Live. And UFO Cover-Up Live has been derided to a great extent, but the basic message in the program is that the government had this super secret project, that they were in touch with aliens. They had diagrams of alien anatomy and so on and so forth. So this prompted me to read more into the UFO subject. And when I started doing that at the time, the Mj12 controversy was really hot.
Right.
And that's when I first saw the Mj12 documents. And for a long time, I've been interested in espionage and intelligence work. And when I saw the Mj12 documents, I felt like they had something to do with intelligence and espionage.
Tom, we're going to get more into the intelligence, the espionage, the UFOs, hidden story, Mj12 with Tom Whitmore, coming up next on Spaced Out Radio. Hot damn there, Tommy, holding out on me on the MUFON stuff. That's good stuff right there. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty happy.
I'm sure we'll all hear more about it. But it's only fair. I don't know if people have noticed this, but in the first iteration of the so-called Gillibrand Amendment, it outlined expert consultation in the UAP subject. And lo and behold, there were two organizations mentioned in there. One was SCU, Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, and they also mentioned the Galileo Project. Those two organizations were actually in the legislation, or the proposed amendment.
Right.
And that was taken out. That didn't survive in the final version. But if they're looking that closely at current UFO organizations like SCU and the Galileo Project, I don't know how far they've gotten along, but if they're doing that, it's only fair that MUFON be involved.
Well, you know what? I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you, and you should be involved. You totally should be involved. So I think it's fantastic, and I think it's wonderful, and I still haven't even interviewed Dave yet. I got to get him on here. I do got to get him on here. You got some pull there? Well,
I've got a little bit of pull, and you'll also get to meet him this summer.
Yes.
So we'll see if we can arrange that, Dave.
Well, good, because I'm excited to talk to him about this. I'm very excited.
He's a great salesman. He's very enthusiastic, obviously pro-MUFON, but he has a very positive attitude, both about MUFON and about the UFO field.
Good.
And he's a very personable guy, and he loves people. He's a people person, and he gets out there and mixes.
Good for him. I think it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We should let our listeners know that as of today, we are a part of a brand new digital network called Odyssey Radio. That's ODYSY radio.com. Odyssey Radio. We're very excited to be their nighttime flagship show where they are carrying all 3 hours of Spaced Out Radio live, and very excited to be a part of them. They just really, really are thinking my type of thoughts. And Rocky and his crew over there are very good people. It's all going to be about paranormal. I know some of the shows that are going to be coming on very, very soon to help support our show on Spaced Out Radio. I love new fledgling projects like this. It really is a fantastic experienced radio people who are putting this together for the benefit of the paranormal. We are also live on iHeartRadio as well. We've only ever been recorded on iHeartRadio. We are live there now, so you can tune in on iHeartRadio if you're not listening here on YouTube, or just go to Odyssey Radio. And very excited about this. This is a good move for us. And eventually, very soon, we're going to get Lynn in on the podcast side of everything. And we are going to have her come on in and get on the Odyssey Radio side as well. And they got some cryptid shows coming up that will be announced very soon. I can't say who, what, where, when, why, but it is very cool. Very much looking forward to it. And you guys should be excited as well. So support Odyssey Radio. That's ODYSY radio.com. And we'll make things happen there as well. Hey, Benji, how you doing, man? Nice to have you here. And who else is here that slipped in late? And yeah, that's about it. All right. We got about 20 seconds left. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much to those who hit us up. Leela Bresh, well, how you doing? Nice to have you here. The Gorgeous Dirt Road, good to see you. And let's say hello to all the veterans. Spencer Fisher, nice to have you here. Here we go, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with all the talk about MJ12 from MUFON. Is Tom Whitmore. He is a magician when it comes to MJ12 and finding and searching for information. This guy is a better sleuth than Sherlock Holmes when it comes to this. Tom, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. I'm having a lot of fun being here tonight.
All right, right before the break, you were kind of breaking down what MJ12 is, and we should also note that you have a blog on this where you do post your findings. Where can people find that?
It is tomwhitmoreblog.wordpress.com. That's tomwhitmoreblog.wordpress.com.
Very cool.
And what I do, Dave, is I'm writing research papers, and so far I've written 4. But what I do in between is I write weekly updates, and you can see exactly what I'm reading, what I'm studying, what I'm researching. And you can go into tomwhitmoreblog.wordpress.com and see what I'm working on and read my research papers. They're sourced, they're referenced, they're footnoted, and I encourage everyone to read it.
And at Tom Tulsa on Twitter. You can find it there as well when he posts it, if you're a Twitter fan. Tom, let's get into MJ12, otherwise known as Majestic 12 by its other names. And now this is one of the top UFO conspiracy theories that is out there, and it's been going on for almost 70, 75 years here. Let's go back in time and talk about how this was all set up.
Okay. Well, we all know about the Roswell incident and how that turned out. Now, there are basically two possibilities there. One is that whatever happened is not anomalous. It's not really that remarkable. The other possibility is they recovered something very unusual in terms of probably an extraterrestrial craft or crafts, and possibly, probably alien bodies, and maybe even a live alien or two. So if you work out of the assumption that they did recover craft, then it only makes sense that the top authorities in the government would set up some way to study it. And this is where the idea of Mj12 comes in, that you have a secret group of very highly regarded scientists, top military people, and a couple of government people thrown in to manage this problem, to study the artifacts, and also to monitor the UFO situation as it develops, and manage the public information side of it. That's the basic theory of having an Mj12. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Mj12 existed or that it exists, because I don't know. What we've had are we've had some indications that something like that might have existed, and we've had documents. Now, the documents that have come out, the original Mj12 documents, the Eisenhower briefing document and the Truman Forrestal memo and the subsequent Cutler-Twining memo, two of those have been pretty much shown to be forgeries, to be fabrications. So, on that basis, some people, some UFO researchers, and the most conservative ones, they jump to the conclusion, well, the documents are phony, so therefore Mj12 doesn't exist, or it never existed. But there's a possibility that the documents could be fabrications themselves, but maybe they contain some correct information. Maybe the messages in the documents are essentially correct. Okay, so if you had a saucer recovery, maybe the President of the United States did designate a very secret group to study it. Okay, and maybe it was called Mj12, maybe it wasn't. But this is what fascinates me, because I want to know who created these Mj12 documents and why. And there are a number of possible reasons for that.
Now, if we go way back in time, this was allegedly set up after Roswell. Was this in reaction to what happened at Roswell, as well as what happened to Kenneth Arnold?
According to the Eisenhower briefing document, it was as a result of Roswell, and they also mentioned another crash on the Texas-Mexico border in El Indio, Guerrero, Mexico. That is questionable too, but according to the Eisenhower briefing document, it's because of Roswell. Now, that was very, very soon. That was only the alleged Roswell incident was only a month after Kenneth Arnold. So if Roswell is real, then the UFO subject got off to a bang, in June and July of 1947.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, look, coming out of World War II, the Iron Curtain is about to close. There's still a lot of tension in the world at that time, Tom. Would it be any surprise for President Eisenhower at that time, or Truman at that time, pardon me, to try and shut the door on something like this? Like, oh my God, we just finished a world war and now we got to worry about aliens? That's a lot of stress in a short amount of time there.
You bet. If it really happened that way, imagine that you're in this top government level, and you're privy to this information, and you cannot deny that you likely got an extraterrestrial situation here, that you have visitors. We citizens, little old UFO researchers like me, we read books, and we think about all this. But I think it's difficult to comprehend what their mental state would have been when they realized what had really happened here. And so it wouldn't surprise me in the least that they decided to clamp a very tight lid of secrecy on it and control the situation as best they could.
Right, and I can understand that. Do you think it was because of, and maybe I'm asking way too many hypothetical questions here, so I apologize, Tom, but this intrigues me. But do you think that if this entire thing was real, that they wanted to get it swept under the rug as quickly as possible? Because if you go back, I mean, we're looking at things in a 2022 attitude here, in a 21st century attitude. But if you go back to the early mid 20th century, religion still plays a major part in people's lives back then. People were still scared coming out of the Depression, going into World War II. Communism is coming everywhere. And, that was another big fear that was starting to take over all the radio stations back then. Fascism and communism. And, I mean, it was a real scary time. And look, anything from the sky now, as we still see with a lot of religious zealots today, anything from the sky that comes from the sky is Armageddon. I mean, this had an opportunity to really hit the panic button on a lot of people if it wasn't shut down quickly.
Certainly. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Dave, when you mentioned the situation with the Cold War. And Stalin was partitioning Germany, and you had the Berlin airlift and crisis, and there was a great deal of concern that Stalin might just overrun Western Europe. So the policymakers, the top people in the government, they were certainly concerned with that, and they were in the process of building this national security state that we have now in a more mature form. But they were very concerned. There was some concern that there were communists in the government and the State Department and other government agencies. They were worried about what Stalin was doing. They had Europe Europe was on its knees after World War II. So the policymakers had very important issues to deal with. And the last thing they probably wanted to worry about were aliens and extraterrestrial spaceships.
No kidding. And I fully agree with you on that. So let's get back to it here. As we're going through the history of this happening, there was a lot of dead time on this topic until it seemed to come out in the early to mid 1980s, the rumblings of this Majestic 12. How did this kind of leak out?
There were some little tidbits of information that were surfacing over the years. There was a little movie that came out called Hangar 18, and it addressed this legend of, the pickled aliens at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, kind of a scenario. But a longtime UFO researcher by the name of Leonard Stringfield had been gathering stories and witness testimony about crashed UFOs, and these were starting to accumulate in the 1970s. Well, in the latter part of the 1970s, William Moore and Stanton Friedman got on to this Roswell issue because Stanton Friedman had talked with Jesse Marcel Sr. from Louisiana, and Marcel claimed that they had recovered extraterrestrial material. And Friedman and Moore started digging into it, and it eventually came out as this little book called The Roswell Incident that Moore published with Charles.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
For Litz. And Moore continued to really seriously investigate a lot of UFO issues, and he was developing a lot of contacts, pretty high level of contacts apparently, that he claims, which are now known as the aviary. And some of the people were in the government. They had heard things. Maybe somebody had seen a thing or two, and he was developing these contacts. And meanwhile, he and Stanton Friedman, they were developing their own list of who they thought might be involved in the recovery of the Roswell craft. So this was going on during the early 1980s, and during that time, there were other researchers pursuing certain things. For example, Linda Moulton Howe was investigating cattle mutilations, and she was working on a documentary for HBO. Well, she was introduced to Richard Doty, who was working with AFOSI on Kirtland Air Force Base, and she had an appointment with Doty, and he showed her a document that is now known as the Carter Briefing Document, but it mentioned Mj12 on that. Also, there was an instance where Moore had been recruited by Doty and by AFOSI and possibly one other government agency, and there was an incident where Richard Doty passed a telex which had been altered, but he passed a telex to William Moore with the intention of it being forwarded to Paul Benowitz. Well, that piece of paper, which is now known as the Aquarius telex, also mentioned MJ12. So we had two instances of MJ12 the meme starting to circulate in the UFO community in the 80s. And then I believe it was in 1984 that Jamie Chandray and William Moore actually received a copy of the original MJ12 that we know as being the original MJ12 documents on a roll of 35 millimeter film.
Okay, so going back to this 1980s, I mean, look, there have been so many UFO programs out there that have come out through different ways. Why does MJ12, if it did exist, remain so much more secretive than, say, other projects like Project Blue Book?
There's the public side of Project Blue Book, and it's rumored that there is a secret side of Project Blue Book. In fact, Daniel Sheehan has told his story about seeing very highly classified Project Blue Book files, and he even saw a roll of film that showed a landed saucer, and he made notes on that. So, on the public side, it's all about information management, Dave. You know that, being a journalist, yes, and being in the media. It's all about information management. It's about perception management. It's about what Susan Goff refers to as strategic influence. But the whole point was to tamp down, to downplay the UFO problem. That was the purpose of Project Blue Book. And there were a number of very, very good cases that were reported to the Blue Book system that they they came back with the most absurd explanations that you can imagine. So the purpose publicly of Project Blue Book was to control the narrative, as we say today.
Okay, so, but was there maybe more in this MJ12 that was more lucrative, more presidential, more of a hard reality than what Project Blue Book was? Because if I look at what I know about Project Blue Book, and I'm no expert on it, okay, really it was J. Allen Hynek running around listening to a bunch of stories, and I'm paraphrasing here, and deciding whether or not it was swamp gas or something strange. And eventually, over the years, the more he did it, realized that there was something to the phenomena. Whereas what I'm hearing from you about MJ12, it seems more to the point, and people being very trite with how the information flowed.
Well, I see two levels here, Dave. I just mentioned the level of controlling the public information of the information management side, but is the other side of it that they're protecting a core secret? Okay, the Air Force has been extremely consistent in its behavior over the years. As we just mentioned with Project Blue Book, they played down UFO sightings, they explained them away, and this policy had its origination in the Robertson Panel report in the early 50s. The Air Force got out of the public UFO business in the late 60s with the Condon report. And during the 70s, if you inquired of the Air Force or inquired of the government, they would say that UFOs do not present a threat to the national security of the United States. And they would mention Project Blue Book and that had been closed. And then there was essentially something of a media blackout for years and years and years. And when the Roswell issue came up in the late 80s and the early 90s, it really began to get some public traction. And Congressman Schiff of New Mexico induced the General Accounting Office to undertake an investigation to see what documents they could find. The Air Force, like I mentioned before, they engaged in front running and came out with this phone book sized report about Roswell, saying that it was probably a mogul balloon. So, and then even today, people are asking, okay, we've had TTSA, we've had these films, we've had this legislation come out in the Congress. How come we're not hearing anything from the Air Force? You've heard that. We've all heard that question asked. And that's a good question. And the answer is because they're being consistent. They're acting the way they always have and probably always will.
We've got about 3.5 minutes to go here, Tom, before we got to go to break. At the top of the hour, Tom Whitmore is our guest. We're talking about the elusive MJ12. Tom, I want to kind of take go down the road here about the idea that this was potentially a fake and that this was completely a hoax. You have said that a couple of times already during this show, and I believe, if my information is correct, on my pre-show studying, that someone close to Eisenhower, maybe one of his assistants, had actually gone to General Twining and stated that these memos were likely forgeries and planted hoaxes as well. I mean, why would they create such a hoax at this time?
There are several possible explanations, Dave. There's the simple hoax theory, and that is you've got somebody in their underwear at 2 a.m. living with their parents in the basement, typing something up and eating cold pizza, that kind of a scenario. But you had Bill Moore and other UFO researchers that were really starting to believe that something was going on. And I think Barry Greenwood, I shouldn't speak for him, but I've heard him say that, and Barry Greenwood has been a huge critic of Bill Moore and this whole MJ12 thing. But there's this notion that Moore thought he was going to make a lot of money. that he was going to come out with this MJ12 idea, and there were going to be documentaries, and he was going to write books and go on the lecture circuit and all that. And these rock rib conservative UFO researchers just tore the MJ12 document to pieces. They found all kinds of things wrong with it. So that's one theory. Now there are other possible reasons why these documents came out. For example, maybe Bill Moore didn't forge the MJ12 documents, but they were created within the aviary, this group of people that Bill Moore was working with. And this is a notion that our friend Melinda Leslie has floated, and we had a discussion about that. But a number of well-known people in the UFO world today were considered members of the aviary at that time. They were given bird names so that Bill Moore, in his phone conversations, could refer to their bird names without using their actual names.
Well, we will get into the aviary later on, but please continue as we got about 45 seconds.
Okay, I'll make this fast. Now, Richard Doty, people have accused Richard Doty of having something to do with this, and he's vociferously denied it in a number of interviews that he's had anything to do with it, and he's hinted that there's a special committee somewhere in the intelligence community, probably in the DIA, that may have created this original set of MJ12 documents. That's another possibility, that it was created for some obscure reasons to affect the UFO community or to affect public opinion. Another theory is that you have insiders in the government that were trying to get some information out into the public.
Tom Whitmore from MUFON. We're talking about his passion tonight, researching and reporting MJ12, Majestic 12. Did it exist? How did they keep it quiet? Was it a hoax? Or was there truth to UFO crashes, alien bodies being recovered, and so much more? We return with Tom Whitmore right after this. Tom, I am just going to take a quick bathroom break, and I will be right back, okay? We got about 6 minutes. Excuse me, everyone. right, Mr. Tom. Sorry about that. Lovely Lavira and Snakes on a UFO, welcome in. The Thomas Fessler from Disclosure Tonight, welcome to the chat room. Mark D. Truth Seeker, welcome. And let's see here, who else has joined us? Let's see here. Margie O, we said you earlier, said hello. Tom, you're supposed to be manning the chat room when I'm not here, man. No, I'm teasing.
I'm trying to type, and I'm not doing a very good job.
Oh, dude, I am having so much fun with you tonight. Thank you so much for doing this. Hi, the unknown. Good to have you here. Bird is the word, by the way. Bird is the word. Just need sleep. Welcome to the chat room. We got about 1 minute, Tom.
Okay.
Brazelhoff, the man who only buys guitars with reverse headstocks. It's too bad because he's a hell of a guitar player. Let's see here. Well, little Tommy Fessler here with a super chat saying, Tom Whitmore is a national treasure. Thank you, Thomas, and everybody at Disclosure Tonight. Appreciate you. Judy Boring, welcome to SOR Chat, and thank you for finding us from Fade to Black. Really appreciate that. And everybody who came over from Jimmy Church's show joining us now. We're going to get going right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us so we can earn your listening ears. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Palliate. Palliate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, as well as TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. From MUFON, the board of directors, Tom Whitmore, is here. He's been chasing UFOs for 32 years plus, but his passion is finding and learning about the Mj12 documents. And in a little bit here, we will open up questions from our chat rooms for Tom. But first, Tom, we were talking right before the break about this potentially being a hoax, potentially being just some sort of red herring, that this could be thrown at the military and the American government. At that time in 1947, when this was all happening, was the U.S. government prepared coming out of World War II for any type of alien interaction?
It depends on what literature you read, because there is an assertion that there was a recovery in Missouri. I think in might have been 1943. It was earlier in the 1940s. Now, my friend Linda, a researcher, she researched this in depth and couldn't find anything to support it. The Woods, Robert Wood and Ryan Wood, they do strongly support that idea that there was something recovered in Missouri in the 1940s. Also, you have the story that has come out from Paula Harris and Jacques Vallée that there was a recovery that occurred in New Mexico prior to World War II. So if either of these happened, if they actually happened, then somewhere up in the government, someone must have known about this. Now, you have changes in personnel, you have changes in administrations. For example, President Roosevelt died and Truman took over, so we can't be sure that that information was transferred appropriately if these things did happen. However, if the Roswell incident did involve UFO recovery.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
They do seem to have handled it pretty well. They seem to have gotten on the scene pretty quickly, and they kept a lid on it. There was apparently one snafu when they had that press release that went to the local Roswell paper, and we have that famous headline. But other than that, I think it was handled, pretty proficiently. So that assuming that it really happened, then that indicates that maybe they had some prior experience with it.
Okay, so the idea that they had prior experience with crash sites and everything, do you think, Tom, that they did capture any sort of extraterrestrial alive?
Richard Doty says that. He claims that. Now, Richard Doty has given a number of interviews on the internet, so I'm not speaking out of school here, and I make a special point to make notes on his interviews. I've made extensive notes on over 13, 14, 15 interviews that he's given. And he claims that when he was employed on Kirtland Air Force Base, that he was called in and given a briefing from a colonel that came down from Washington, D.C. And they were shown films of the Roswell recovery. They were shown photographs of UFOs. They were shown photographs of alien creatures, a couple of them very, very strange looking alien creatures. And so, in that whole scenario, and I'm just repeating what I've heard Richard Doty say a number of times in these interviews, but he stated that there were two saucer crashes. There was the crash at Corona, and there was a second saucer recovered at Horse Mesa, which is in southwest New Mexico, and it was recovered a couple of years later. It was found by some ranchers. But in the Corona recovery, that they did have one live alien recovered, and he was taken to Los Alamos, and they eventually figured out how to communicate with him. Now that's the story; those are the claims, but I don't have any proof of it other than Richard Doty's claims.
Okay, do you think though that the government was able to, or maybe still has, any sort of communication going with any type of extraterrestrial species? I mean, this has been rumored for so long, and of course it's the one rumor that we'll never ever get the truth for, at least probably in our lifetimes. But I mean, it is a part of it, Tom, whether or not we can speculate that the United States government has had full contact.
Yeah, I mean, it's been part of the legend. I mean, I refer to it as a legend because we don't have solid confirmation of these stories and of these claims. But in the UFO Cover-Up Live program in the late 80s, it was I think in October of 1988, they claimed that they had an alien as a guest of the United States government, and that the National Security Agency received signals, codes when they knew that our visitors were coming in into town, so to speak. So that's been part of the legend. Now, then you have the Bob Lazar's claims. We all are familiar with those, and then we had the claims of this Dan Burrish person, and he says that he worked with this J-Rod being that was being kept in a special facility, in SOR Area 51 or wherever. And Richard Doty is referred to J-Rod too. So there have been persistent rumors that we have had one or more alien beings as guests of the United States government, either as guests or as prisoners.
All right, I do have to ask in regards to J-Rod, because you brought him up. Now, J-Rod is an alien gray, the prototypical alien gray. There's allegedly film out there of him. Whether or not we can trust that or not, I would be highly suspect of it. But, I mean, when there's usually smoke, Tom, there's fire. All right. When you look at the J-Rod story and you look at the information that you have gathered through the years, is Tom Whitmore convinced that the legend could be real?
I feel that there's a strong possibility that one or more UFOs have been recovered and possibly aliens. I see it as a strong possibility. I'm not convinced that it's real because I haven't seen firm official confirmation of that. We've received all kinds of documents, these Mj12 documents, and Timothy Cooper received a great number of documents, some of which were shown to be phony. And then we've had the Serpo story. We've had the Psalm 1-01 manual that purports to be a manual for recovery of UFOs and bodies. But these are all questioned documents. They've arisen anonymously. And when people that know what they're talking about, when they scrutinize these documents, they just don't hold up under scrutiny. So the question is, now it's my contention that we've had this series of questionable documents arising since the early 80s, almost up to the present time. This has been going on for 35, 40 years. And that's what intrigues me, Dave. Why is that going on?
Well, and that's the big thing that I think we're all trying to get, because all we ever get, Tom, is these little snippets of information, breadcrumbs, to be perfectly honest, and it's frustrating trying to put pieces of the puzzle together when you can't even see what you're looking at. And it's like doing it blindfolded. And that's pretty much what ufology is for people out there in Radioland who do not really understand the idea behind everything. So for you, combining MJ12 with all of the little conspiracy theories, you also mentioned Bob Lazar there for a moment. I want to ask you this, Tom, okay, because, and it's a little off topic, but it does pertain to everything like MJ12. I am a firm believer that there is this UFO Pandora's box sitting somewhere deep within the Pentagon or someplace like that, maybe in a dark vault at the bottom of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, could be anywhere, that contains the answers to all of these secrets. MJ12, Project Blue Book, Lazar, Eisenhower potentially meeting with aliens to trade humans for technology. And I know this isn't a very popular thing that I'm going to say, but I really do believe, Tom, at this point, with everything on the table, disclosure as close as it's ever been, and the information coming from all sorts of factions right now, that this Pandora's box is what the United States government is protecting today. Because I really do believe that all subjects are open and accountable right now. Whether we believe them or not, like Lazar, something controversial like that, or Eisenhower, or David Adair, or whomever, I really don't think we can throw the baby out with the bathwater anymore. Because all of this stuff that we're hearing was not true is turning out to be true, and what we thought was truth may not be the full truth. And this Pandora's box, if it opens, could cause a lot of harm within the United States government and trust within the humanity, the human component of this world regarding the secrets that are being withheld from people. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, if it's true, if they have the really exciting, intriguing stuff, you know, the recovered UFOs and the bodies and maybe live aliens and maybe even communication with them. If that's all true, then it's a 1 or a 0. Either it's publicly disclosed or it isn't, because if anything about that is actually disclosed, then you can't unring that bell. Okay, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And if it is the case that is the situation, then whoever's controlling it, and I'm still trying to figure that out, but whoever is controlling that, they have a decision to make, because they know you can't do this just a little bit. Okay, let's give you a little bit of information about the truth. Okay, that's not going to work. Either it all comes out, or even if they had a partial disclosure, us UFO types and hopefully some other competent investigative journalists are going to get on that like nobody's business, and eventually it's all going to have to come out.
All right. I got a question for you from a mutual friend of ours, Nicole Sakic, who is wondering, and I know she's probably eating a scoop of peanut butter as we speak. She's asking what your thoughts are on the theory of the origin of the papers and which parts you think are most important regarding MJ12.
The theory that most intrigues me, Dave, and hi, Nicole, there was a brilliant paper written by Brad Sparks about this whole MJ12 situation. And in that paper, he mentioned that there was a series of events occurring in the late 70s that could have really caused some concern to the Air Force. In other words, the Air Force was becoming concerned that the UFO, the public UFO recognition was starting to get legs, and that they might lose control of it. So they, in turn, undertook a series of countermeasures. And those countermeasures being maybe recruiting Bill Moore and recruiting possibly some other UFO enthusiasts or investigators to inform on what was going on with other investigators and what was going on in the UFO groups. And perhaps a part of these countermeasures was creating these questionable documents, like the so-called Carter briefing document and the Aquarius Telex and the original set of MJ12 documents. Now, why would they do that? If we look at the result of the MJ12 documents, if we look at it objectively, I think we can note two things. For those people that are aware of it and have looked at it, they have less trust in the government. Because how can you trust the government if you think that they've been keeping a deep, dark secret all these years and keeping the truth from the American people? That's one side of it. The other side of it is there's less trust within the UFO community itself. People have become suspicious. People are questioning, are you an agent of the government? Are the UFO groups infiltrated? Are people spying on each other or informing on each other? So it's had those effects. Now, in terms of not trusting the government as much, I wouldn't think that whoever designed these countermeasures would have wanted that to be a result. They probably wanted the result being that there was tension and distrust within the UFO field itself. And that's one possible theory of why the MJ12 documents were created.
Philip Klass did a great job at trying to be a disinformation agent or alleged disinformation agent regarding this. What role did he play in this?
Phil Klass was an arch skeptic, and he pretty much took the place of Donald Menzel. It didn't matter what you came out with, whether it was a sighting or a landing or an abduction or government documents. He was all over it, and he immediately debunked it. He was a competent, well-respected journalist with the Aviation Week and Space Technology publication. So he was a competent investigative journalist, and he turned up all kinds of good information. And unfortunately for the UFO side, it wasn't what people wanted to hear. I think Doty made the remark, or somebody over on that side of things made the remark that they really didn't have to feed him much information at all, or have any planning to express opinions in any certain way. He just did it on his own.
Right. Do you feel that he was just anti-UFO, or that he was somebody who was very much about learning the truth regarding these subjects?
Well, I don't have any reason to believe other than that he was just totally anti-UFO. And there is this materialistic scientific viewpoint that they couldn't get here, okay, based on our understanding of relativity and astronomy and the distances involved, and the capability of technology as we know it, that some of these more hardcore scientific materialistic types think that they couldn't be here, therefore there can't be UFOs. So there's this a priori dismissal of the whole idea, and I think he fell into that camp.
Okay. As we move forward, we got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Tom Whitmore talking Mj12 here. Why is this case still quite relevant today, Tom, with everything that's going on, what we see from the Gillibrand Amendment to Lou Elizondo to Chris Mellon to everything that we've seen happen? Why is Mj12 still very relative today?
In my mind, Dave, the reason why it's relevant to me is based on what I've learned about what happened in the 80s. There apparently was some effort on the part of certain agencies within the government to interact with the UFO groups and the UFO community for whatever reasons. And I think that this did go on during the 1980s. And we have to remember, too, that we were still in the Cold War, and we were having a lot of issues with the Soviet Union. We were trying to place missiles, Pershing missiles in Western Europe. We were also developing stealth aircraft, and these may have come into play as to why the government may have been interacting with UFO groups. But I think it's still relevant today because we have to shift our focus from the old days when you used to create documents on a typewriter or even on a word processor, up to the present time when we have the internet and we have social media. So the environment has completely, totally changed if government types want to affect the so-called narrative, or they want to affect public perception about an issue, because it is so easy now to plant photographs, to plant stories, to plant memes, to get things to go viral, that we're in a completely different situation now. And I've studied certain government regulations and directives about what is permissible and not permissible in terms of interacting with U.S. citizens. And in theory, we're basically safe. The Defense Department is not supposed to be messing with us. But I think from time to time they may bend the rules or even break the rules. That this does happen with government agencies, and that may have been something that was going on during the 1980s. So I'm on the lookout for interaction between the UFO community and the government.
Right. Tom, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are, if I ask you another question, we're definitely going to go over into the break, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen. Otherwise, I end up getting in trouble from our radio side of people. But we got you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to hit up Mj12. We're going to hit up audience questions. We're going to hit up a lot more UFO stuff. And I'm very happy that you're here. This is such an intriguing topic. And he got me just captivated tonight, my friend, talking Mj12. Tom Whitmore of MUFON's Board of Directors, talking about his passion, Mj12. You can't take the UFOs away from this guy. We got Mr. Whitmore till the top of the hour. Then in hour 3, we head to the swamp and Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. This is flying on by, man.
The time is going fast.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I guess maybe my answers are a little long there, but if you ask me another question, I might have gone on a little ways.
No. I think your answers are great. It's one thing I like about you. Your answers are always so informative.
Oh, thank you.
You are welcome.
I love being on your show, Dave.
I love it when you're here,
I love
too.
being on the show.
Love it when you're here, too. I mean, other people, no, I'm teasing. No, you're amazing, Tom. know, but, for full disclosure, Tom and I talk at least once a week, at minimum. Once a week. I'll give Tom a call or he'll send me a message. And if you guys out there looking for quality people to find who don't get too high, don't get too low on the entire phenomena, what's going on, Tom Whitmore really is the guy to follow on this. He really is. And, you're never going to get bullshit from him. That's what I like. He's not like me. He's not into the big time woo, and gets all excited and shaky and all Canadian on you. No, Tom's not like that. So make sure you go on social media and follow Tom. That will do you some good learning about this subject.
I hope they do. I'm glad to talk to anybody.
I know you will. You're very open that way. I want to know this too, Eddie. All I want to know is what will it take to finally get Dave on a freaking UFO? Exactly. You know what I am going to...
Spring deals are at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Get 40% off select bikes for the family. Buy a reel, get 30% off a fishing rod. And buy one, get one 50% off Magellan Outdoors Performance Cruise. Visit your store or academy.com. Ends March 20th. Exclusions and restrictions apply. See academy.com/disclaimers.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
You know what?
Maybe Lou Elizondo can help.
Trying. You know what I've noticed is apparently the more that you nag and bug Brandon Fugel, the more opportunity he gives you to get onto Skinwalker Ranch. Seriously. I want to go there. No,
yeah.
I'm not going to play Mr. Nice Guy there anymore. I'm going to get on the Twitter just like everybody else and start whining the shit out of him until he finally breaks down and says, okay, come to Skinwalker. Then I'm going to be like, no, I don't want to. Beg.
Do you know if he's ever seen anything unusual there?
Yes. What? I don't know.
I wouldn't be too enthusiastic about getting something, that kind of hangs on to you and goes with you when you go back home and it's still with you. Yeah, but Tom, I don't think I would want that.
Tom, I read that article too, okay? And I will say this, anybody who is connected to the phenomena, it's around you all the time. You never get rid of it. It may go silent for a long time, but you never get rid of it. if that makes sense. So the fact that these people came home and there was werewolves outside their windows and orbs in their houses and spirit activity, well, pardon my language, but what the fuck do you expect? Look what you're playing with. Right?
Yeah, that became apparent when the abduction phenomenon really began to show up. We kept finding that abductees were also undergoing paranormal experiences, poltergeist type experiences and activity, and just odd, strange things happening around the house and in their lives. Yeah, that's part of it.
No, true enough. But I mean, look, in our chat room here, I'm gonna use a name here with Julie Farrell, Luscious Jules, very connected individual, and I can tell you right now that, without even knowing if something has happened to her lately, because I don't even know. I know she lives I believe in the state of Alabama by Science Bob. Okay, I can tell you right now that with the amount of stuff that she has going on, she would agree with me point blank that if you are a multiple experiencer, it never leaves. The phenomena never leaves. It's not a hitchhiker effect. Every now and again you get the hitchhikers, but it's more than that. It is way more than, it's like they've taken up a little bit of a residence around your energy, right? And they may go silent for a long time, maybe years. I haven't seen a UFO in years. But it's just the way it is. We got questions coming. We're coming back right now.
Okay.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you earning and tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, do us a favor. Check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, we got our main man, Tom Whitmore, here from MUFON. We are checking on out Mj12, and we got a bunch of questions from our audience here for you, Tom, so we're just going to continue with that right now, if you don't mind. And our first question tonight comes from the unknown, who says, where would a person send pictures of objects found on Mars?
Well, you can certainly send them to MUFON if you're interested. MUFON has a network of field investigators, and we have chapters all over the country. We have chapters or state directors that cover other states. We have those basically in all 50 states. So if you live in Tennessee, for example, you can do a little bit of searching on the internet and find the MUFON state director in Tennessee, and that person can refer you to a field investigator in your area, and you can send the pictures to that person, and we'll be glad to take a look at it.
All right, perfect. I would like to know how he got pictures from Mars. That's what I want to know.
Maybe he got on that UFO that you want to get on, Dave.
I'm jealous if that's what happened. I am very jealous. Zero.
There's a lot of jealousy in the UFO field.
Yeah. Zero would like to know, Tom, how do you feel about Mick West and his work?
Mick West is a solid skeptic. I think that has a place in the UFO community. It gets a little bit annoying if something is pretty obviously interesting and anomalous, and a person comes up with some kind of a pat explanation, like it's a drone or something, when apparently it's not. So, but I think Mick West is very, very good. He's a competent skeptic, and I think that there's a place for that in the UFO community.
I like his work. I do. I'm like you, Tom, where I feel at times he goes out of his way to be skeptical, if that makes sense. Look, I think questioning everything is a good idea, but at some point you have to say, this is very interesting. This is something we need to focus on. And, but Mick, I think, for a lot of his stuff, has been very fair. Very fair. And I
love his accent.
Yeah, he's got a great voice. Nicola wants to know, Tom, what are your thoughts about the June 25th release and no mention of anything prior to July of 2004, the Nimitz incident?
I'm a little bit cynical about information that comes out from the government in these kind of situations. I did not expect to see anything unusual. I did not expect to see anything interesting. I expected that they would provide the minimum amount of information that they could get away with, and I think that's exactly what they did. So I think we got what I was expecting, and I think what a lot of the more hard-bitten old sea dogs in the UFO community expected, and that was not much of anything. It was a big nothing burger.
I would agree with you on that. But, I mean, it was interesting to say that out of the 144 cases that they did investigate, only one was something they could solve. And I found that very funny when they said that one was a weather balloon. I just found that very funny.
Yes, we're all weather balloons.
Right? I mean, how could you... out of all things to say, it's a weather balloon. Like, come on! Give us something different than a weather balloon.
Maybe that was intentional.
Could have been. Joe in California wants to know, what is the greatest case with the most information that MUFON has ever investigated?
Well, I'm a little bit biased, but I'm very, very, very much in favor of the Cash Landrum case for several reasons. The witnesses were in East Texas. There's a couple of ladies and a young boy, I think east of Houston or in the Houston area. They saw the craft. They saw the flames. They felt the heat. They received, I think, maybe some level of burns. It had a physical effect on the outside of the car. There were helicopters involved, and the craft was apparently in distress. Okay, and John Schuessler, who is on the MUFON board, and he's a venerated long-term member of MUFON. In fact, he helped found it. But John Schuessler investigated the Cash Landrum case just as much as he could, and he hit a brick wall. There's a government wall of secrecy behind it. Now, Richard Doty has said in interviews that it was actually an adapted alien craft. The craft itself was alien, but the propulsion system was nuclear. And Richard Doty said that they had tested this craft over a period of months in Nevada, and everything worked fine. And they were transferring the craft to another location, and it started having problems. There were a whole lot of helicopters that came on the scene, presumably in case the craft landed or crashed. So to me, that is the most interesting case.
See, I thought you would have said something like Stefan Mikulik and the Falcon Lake incident.
That was a very interesting case, Dave, and that's a Canadian case. That's one for you guys there.
Oh yeah, yeah. You allow us to do that every now and again, which is nice. It's very nice. And
yeah,
and I do appreciate that. All right, while we're waiting for more questions here from our audience, I want to ask you, with MUFON and Mj12, will MUFON ever have a department that goes into these legendary cases like Mj12, like Project Blue Book? Because it is such a big part of UFO history that I realize that MUFON is really about taking and receiving data that people give about their sightings and videos and encounters and everything. But I don't know. I just think it would be really cool if MUFON had a historic division as well.
It would be nice. It's just that we're all volunteer, and the work that's done is generally by individuals on their own account, such as myself. I'm doing this in an individual capacity privately. I'm not doing it in a MUFON capacity per se. MUFON has a couple of paid employees. We have an executive director, and we have an office manager, and we have a person that manages the symposium. And occasionally we might have another part-time person or a volunteer come in and help in the office. And we have a couple of other people that are paid to do certain things like create the journal and that kind of thing. But other than that, we don't have any departments, and we don't have any research divisions per se. So people that do work are like that, like myself, are doing it on an individual basis. For example, Stanton Friedman had always been welcome at MUFON symposiums, and he was very much a part of the MUFON scene, and he was pretty much the authority on Mj12. Also, Robert Wood, who is a dear friend of mine, he and his son Ryan did a tremendous amount of work in searching for documents at the National Archives, and they have their website, majesticdocuments.com, and they published a video and a book as well. So you have people working on an individual basis, like I do.
I think it's phenomenal, man. I really do. I just think it would be so cool to go onto that MUFON website and see like historic value. But of course, I mean, that would be very tough. I understand that because everybody is pretty much volunteer. I did have a question in the first hour, and I apologize, I forget who asked it, but how does one become a MUFON investigator?
It's pretty easy. You could go on the MUFON website, and there are places on the website. Become a member. You can become a member at the basic level, and then you can apply to become a field investigator. You order the field investigator manual. It's both an electronic version and a hard copy version, and you study the manual, and then you eventually you take a little exam, which you pass, and then you go in and start working with a field investigator at the local level. So the way MUFON is organized is we have state directors, and then we have state section directors, which correspond to the cities. And then you have field investigators at the local level. So if you join MUFON, pass the field investigators exam, you receive your field investigators card, then you start working with either the state section director or someone that he assigns to help get you on track, to start investigating cases.
All right. Let's continue on here. Brazelhoff is asking, what's your opinions on the dark sky ships in 1890?
But it's the reason why I'm laughing is I draw the line at World War II. I'm not an authority on anything before that. I'm somewhat aware of the airship, mysteries that went on at the turn of the century, and they were almost comical in some ways, because you had these, if you can imagine these steampunk type vehicles, with guys even like running bicycle pedals, flying along and then making remarks to people on the ground, or asking directions, how, which way is it to Milwaukee, that kind of a thing. It's almost comical. But no, I'm sorry, I can't provide much information on that, because I specialize in modern UFO history after World War II.
All right, let's go to Eddie. What's the most groundbreaking evidence you've ever received?
Well, like I mentioned, the Cash Landrum incident, I know that there's been a great deal of controversy and interest in the Phoenix Lights. We also had a case in Texas that was studied extensively in the Crawford, Texas area, where George Bush lives. The Stephenville case was a big case. And, we occasionally have these big cases. So I'd say Stephenville and Phoenix Lights and Cash Landrum would be my top three, just off the top of my head.
Well, what else was I going to ask you here in regards to it? Let me get to Surf Chair's question here first. Have you heard of UFOs coming from our flat plains?
I haven't heard that term, no. Can you fill me in on that?
Okay, we'll come back to Surf Chair here in regards to that. Tom, there's a lot of famous cases out there that are, we're stuck on them. Never mind Roswell, but I mean, you just mentioned the Phoenix Lights. And I mean, if we look at that case point blank regarding what happened, how people were treated, how the public was mocked and chastised by Governor Fife Symington on down, how much should we be focusing on a case like that to try and figure out what has happened? I mean, it's only 25 years old. We just celebrated the 25th anniversary of that case on the 13th of this month. But for you looking at that, what are some questions that you would like answered about a case like that?
I think people have investigated it extensively, and I think that the point of investigating is to see if you can turn up some new information. And I think that, there's the 80-20 rule, but 80% of the information probably comes from 20% of the effort. And I think that, barring further disclosures, I think most of the information about that case has probably been found. So I really don't know what else to do. Now it's important though to understand these cases in historical perspective, and having an historical attitude like I have, I can be accused of not looking forward. But I'm seeing a lot of people in the UFO field now having attitudes and having notions when they really don't have things in proper historical perspective. So I encourage everyone out there to do a little bit of reading and learn about UFO history since World War II, to be able to put things in proper perspective. But the Phoenix Light case, for example, is certainly a big one in the scheme of things.
I want somebody to grill Fife Symington. I don't care if he came out later and saw the lights later on, and I don't know if he's ever been asked this. I haven't been able to find it. I would like to ask him one question. Were you told to make a mockery of what happened the next day at that press conference? And if so, who told you?
I think we'd all like to know that. The problem is, would he tell you the truth? So, I mean, wouldn't you like to sit down with him, Dave, face to face, and ask him that question directly?
I would. We've even tried to get him on this show to no avail so far. Okay, and it's not for a lack of trying, we do want him here. We do want him on the show. We want him to answer those questions, because I do believe that there are still a good number of people in the Phoenix area who witnessed that 25 years ago who aren't buying Chinese lanterns or flares off of A-10 Thunderbolts.
Uh-huh. And if you could ask him that question, eyeball.
Spring deals are at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Get 40% off select bikes for the family. Buy a reel, get 30% off a fishing rod. And buy one, get one 50% off Magellan Outdoors Performance Cruise. Visit your store or academy.com. Ends March 20th. Exclusions and restrictions apply. See academy.com/disclaimers.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Eyeball Dave, I think you'd want to not only go by the words that he says, but his body language, his facial expression and his body language. That's going to tell you something too.
Yeah, and I think last year he spoke at his first UFO conference at the International UFO Congress in Phoenix. I believe he spoke there last year. And, talking about how he was a witness and he did see it and he felt horrible. Yeah, you should feel horrible. You literally made your citizens feel like stooges. I mean, you can't get around that.
Well, but it's unusual that you have somebody make a turnaround like that. Usually these higher-ups, in the political sphere, they play down something and you never get a contradiction to it. They never repent like he did. So I think we can thank him for that.
I would agree with you on that. I could totally agree with you on that. I would just like to see more. I think there's more to that case. And as much as we concentrate on Roswell, I would love to see more come out of Phoenix. I really would like to see more come out of Phoenix.
Sure.
All right. We got about 4 minutes here. We got a couple more questions from our audience here. Eddie is wondering, is there any certain time of the year when activity is unusually higher?
Yeah, it starts to pick up in May. In fact, I brought some statistics with me, Dave, for this show. And I'm going to give you some averages over the last 3 years of the number. This is the number of reports that MUFON receives from 2019 through 2021. So in January, we had an average number of reports of 493, February 382, March 517, April 502, and May 601. Okay. And one of the highest we've had is 751. That's in May. So I think when the weather starts warming up and people start going outside more, they're probably seeing more things.
Which would be very understandable. Let's go to, let's see. Wham Bam Ham is wondering, do you have any knowledge of the HMAS Hobart?
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm sorry, I can't comment on that because I don't know much about it.
All right.
I apologize, but I don't have anything I can relate.
David in Arizona is wondering, how much should MUFON actually investigate into the Phoenix Lights?
Quite a bit. We had a state director, and we had field investigators. We had state section directors, and it was such an obvious case that there was a great deal of activity there. But if you really want specific information, I'd have to go and do some checking.
All right. Surf Jer on the Flatlands. Remember the Flatlands question? Okay.
Yeah.
Says just a belief on his part through his studies, which is the reason why he asked the question, that there seems to be activity on Flatlands a little bit more. That it might be coming from areas like that.
Well, there have been famous cases of these northern tier Air Force installations, in North Dakota and South Dakota and Montana, which, I mean, when you say flatlands, I guess they're referring to the Great Plains, the plains that stretch from Canada all the way down through the U.S. And that's where we have a lot of our missile silos. And there have been, a number of well-known cases with these missile installations and other nuclear installations.
All right, one quick question. We got about 1 minute, Tom. Have you ever followed the Zimbabwe aerial school back in '94? That incident within a UFO landing. This from the Michael Leger.
Yes, that's a fascinating case, and I actually was able to meet a very charming young woman who was at the 2018 symposium in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and she was actually she's a grown woman now, but she is actually one of the children that was there at that elementary school case. And it's very, very interesting because there was a landing, there was communication, you had a whole number of witnesses. So it's just a fascinating scenario.
Right on. Tom Whitmore, much love, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio again tonight. Very much appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. It's been a lot of fun.
Keep up the great work on the MJ12. And, of course, Tom Whitmore's blog is tomwhitmore.wordpress.com. If you want to check it on out, I think I got that right. And coming up next, we're going to head to the swamp with Swamp Dweller and a spooky story for you. We're clear. Thank you, Mr. Tom. Great radio again, buddy.
Thanks, Dave. I've really enjoyed it.
I always enjoy you, man. And for our listeners who are heading to Las Vegas, get a good look at Tom right now because he is going to be there. And so you can walk right up to him and say, hey, Mr. Tom Whitmore, I'd like to get your autograph, or I'd like to shake your hand, or I'd like to get a hug, or I'd like to talk to you about some aliens or whatever. And, Tom also works well under the pressure of pina coladas. Pina coladas will be the drink of choice for Tom. No, I don't know. I'm just teasing.
I think what they're going to say is, Dave wants you to grow a beard.
That is true, too.
That's what they'll say to you.
Yeah, Tom used to have this beautiful mustache, okay, like this Tom Selleck type mustache, and he gave it up.
Yeah, that was back in my 30s. So.
My friend will chat with you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Tom Whitmore, everybody. We love him around here. Absolutely love him. But look who's hiding. The best he could do is $1.50. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob.
That's right, $1.50.
Yeah, he's going to go to the casino. They're going to say it's a $5 table. He's going to be, best I can do is $1.50. That's
it, Dave. Oh, man. I can't wait to get down in Vegas. I've always wanted to, I don't know, we don't have enough time, I don't think, but man, I like to walk in that pawn shop and act like I'm Rick, you know what I mean?
Oh, my God.
Start bossing Chum Lee around.
Yeah. My gosh. That is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man.
It really is. We hit 50 fans tonight. 50 fans coming. And that's just the ones that we know. And I'm pretty sure there are a bunch of other people that we have no clue of that are maybe last minute that are going to be there. Thomas Rock, how you doing, buddy? I'm just catching up in the chat room here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's really great, too, when you don't know the unexpected. You have your list of 50 guests, but you're going to have some surprises from people you had no idea are going to come down. That's what I'm going to dig.
Yeah. Grant Tavia says he is growing his mustache and mustache alone for the weekend in Vegas. Michael Darling, how you doing, buddy? Oh, look at that. The old Cryptis Huntress there. Oh, little BMR, Bigfoot Hearts. Bigfoot Hearts.
Hello, Jessica.
Isn't she a brainiac when it comes to this stuff? She's amazing.
I love her, man. She is just she's fresh air, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. I mean, I do have nicer hair than her, but you know what? Overall, I think she's amazing. I really do. Except her hair. She's number 2 in my books with hair because I'm number 1.
Well, Dave, you do have that thick mane going. It's I wish I could do that. I wish I had hair at like that length at one time in my life, but it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, I will be doing the old wash and conditioner in the morning. That's the way I work. By the way, want to say a big thank you to Rocky and the team at Odyssey Radio, where we are now broadcasting live on Odyssey and on iHeartRadio through Odyssey. Appreciate it. Glad to be a part of the family there. And I know they have some big things coming with some cryptid shows very, very soon. And it's going to be awesome. Awesome lineup of paranormal activity. We're glad to be a part of it. And their nightly show there for 3 hours a night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, congratulations. That's going to be awesome, Dave.
Joe Monk, you will not be in Las Vegas, which means that I have the best hair going into Las Vegas. Okay? Oh, my gosh. I'm looking forward to it, man. So looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Look at this. She's like, you guys stop it. No, you stop it.
I typically go down to Las Vegas in April. My brother's down there right now. We go down for the NCAA tournament and just sit there and go to the sports book and just gamble our life away. And I say, brother, I gotta go see Dave Scott and all our, well, not mine, but all your fans and followers and have a great time. So he's like, okay. So he keeps texting me. He goes, I'm glad he didn't come. He's already down like $500 on today's tournaments. I said, oh, man, I'm usually his lucky charm because last year we walked away with quite a few dollars. So
very nice. Very nice.
And my brother and I, we played Texas Hold'em. In fact, my brother's placed at the World Series of Poker. He won like $20,000.
Oh, no way.
And I said, yeah, I'm going to go down and play this guy, Dave Scott. Well, he knows of you. He watches the show. He kind of lurks. And he goes, all right, well, good luck. I said, yeah, well, I don't know. Dave's got some tricks up his sleeve. So I got to watch myself around that guy.
You know what? I'm not the one to watch. Carter Buschardt is the guy to watch.
Okay.
Carter's placed, I think, once or twice in the money at the World Series.
Wow.
Hold on, everyone. We're going to launch the third hour right now. Rob, I'm putting you on mute.
Yep.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us on in. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are in this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Odyssey Radio, including live on iHeart, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Palliate. Palliate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with another edition of us heading into the swamp for a spooky story with our resident swamp dweller.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. My name is Faye, and the story I'm about to tell you happened when I was 13. All of the incidents happened to me in the same house as well. I went to live with my dad, who had just bought a nice country house in the middle of the woods. I thought it would be a nice place after leaving my mom's house. I used to have a little stepsister and an older brother. The house was great at first. I shared a room with my sister that was right next to our parents' room. My brothers were on the opposite end of the house. The three of us loved exploring the house and the woods around us. We played out there all the time, and it felt like a whole nother world. Waking up in the morning would be like a fairy tale, because our yard would have deer, chipmunks, groundhogs, and many more animals. I loved it, but my fantasy filter I had over this house would soon be exchanged for one of a haunted house. Many things started to happen around the house slowly at first. The sound of stomping through the house would happen every now and then, but our parents thought it was just us. It would happen even when I'd stay home by myself, and there would be no one else around to be able to make this noise. It sounded like someone was walking very angrily. Even still, when I told them, they would say it was most likely an animal in the walls or something. Which to me is still weird. Wouldn't you be concerned that something's living in the walls? Another thing that we started to notice was when we would come home, all of our light bulbs would be unscrewed, so they were just barely hanging in the socket, in every single room. This would even happen in the bedrooms. One night later, after we had all left and gone to bed, my father woke up to a banging sound. He got up and was mad to be woken up that late and stormed out of his room to find it. Naturally, he assumed it was us. He stopped outside my sister and I's room and listened. He said it sounded like we were jumping on our beds and making our headboards hit the walls. He opened the door with a fast push and looked in, ready to yell at us for being up and messing around. But the sound had stopped right as he did, and he saw that we were both fast asleep. Confused, he went to bed. The next night it happened again, and like the first time we were both passed out. He asked us if we had heard the banging and if it was us, but we had no idea what he was talking about. I genuinely, for the life of me, cannot remember any of these noises. Instead of trying to figure out if we were lying, he just removed the headboards and put them in our closet. That weekend I went to my mom's place and my sister went to her dad's. That night the banging started up late at night, and he knew we were not home. He went into our room, and the banging didn't stop that time. He followed the sounds to the closet. He put his hand on the door, and right as he slid the door open, it stopped. The thing is, my dad started to believe us about the strange stompings and strange light bulb incidents after this, because there was nothing in there. Other small things happened after that night. Cabinet doors opening, lights going off and on, and so on. But one of the scariest encounters was one night. I was home with just a friend. My parents were out on a date night, and they wouldn't be back for quite some time. It was probably going to be really late when they got back. It was storming like crazy that night, and we had been in the living room watching movies and just hanging out. The power started to go in and out, as well as strange sewage smells and rotten eggs. It didn't bother us at first because it was storming, and we just assumed, well, maybe the sewer drains were flooding. It wasn't until the power would go out for longer than a flash this time. It stayed out for quite some time. We looked at one another and looked, but the sound of whistling stopped us. My friend then asked if our brother was here. I told her no, it was just us. The whistling was masculine sounding, and it was creepy. It was this tune that just sounded wrong. It was coming down the hall from by my room. That's at the end of the hall. We did not want to get up, and I told her about all of the other things that had happened before. With the power going out and the storm giving us the only flashes of light we would see, we were too scared. We jumped up 10 feet when the whistling was still happening, but now it sounded like it was coming toward us, stomping down the hall, getting closer and louder. We saw a huge black shadow charge out from the hall, but dissipated as it got closer to us. We were screaming and sobbing, thinking something or someone was going to get us, half expecting something to slam into us. The lights finally came back on, and we were holding on to each other on the couch, shaking. I'm sure it was probably only about a minute or two, but it felt like hours. We decided to go hide in my brother's room on the opposite side of the house, as far from my room as possible. We waited there until someone got home. We stayed in my brother's room that night on the floor, as I was not brave enough to go sleep in my room. I ended up moving back in with my mom shortly after, as I just did not feel safe in that house, and luckily my dad moved out a few months later, after some more occurrences. I'm not even sure what it was or why it all happened, but that little house in the middle of nowhere, I'll never forget.
Oh, it's always a spooky house in the middle of nowhere, and we say thank you to our resident swamp dweller for freaking us out once again. You can go to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and find all these spooky stories. He's got literally thousands of them. Thousands. And make sure you hit subscribe button on that. All right, let's get to some cryptid talk. We got Bigfoot Rob coming in here momentarily. All right, Bigfoot Michigan Rob from Brunch with Bigfoot coming on in, hanging on out with us. I'll tell you, it's a podcast that you definitely want to check on out. Hit subscribe. There are very few podcasts that I will actually put my name to. This is one of them. Bigfoot Rob, you do a hell of a job with big text there as well.
Dave, I appreciate that. And, it's always an honor. It's always a privilege for me to jump in and help out and give Duke a break. I'm not Duke, obviously. He's the greatest. And I appreciate you and let me come on in and talk a little cryptids.
What do you got for us tonight?
You know what? I'm excited about this, Dave. I am excited because it's very rare that I get
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create AI with integrity, not bias. Cloud management that requires less management. And new ways for business to do business. Let's create, at scale, right now, together. Let's prototype. Let's tweak. Let's test. Let's adapt. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM. Let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
Email from a person that watches our show and says, "Hey, Rob, here's my encounter, man. Can you help me out? Break it down for me?" And I'm like, well, sure. So I got an email from a man that lives in Michigan. And his name, he goes by Jim. Whether that's his name, who knows? Clare, Michigan. This was May of 2021. That it's dated anyway. Here's this report. So Jim and his family, his wife and 3 kids, all sons. They have a spot in Clare which they have been going to since 2016. 5 years, in a row, consecutive. Beautiful area. They've got a campsite nestled in the middle of the woods, and it's got about 20 yards of wood line that surrounds their campsite. And during this 5-year period, Jim always felt as though there was somebody else out in the woods, as he described to me. He had said he felt like maybe he was being watched or there was a presence. Now, of course, he didn't make mention of this to his family. He didn't want to spook them. As I said, they love this area. They want to keep going back. And to this day, they don't go back, and we'll get into that. So at any rate, Jim would always take his eldest son, once they got into their camping area, the eldest son and Jim would go out and explore the area, the area around their campsite. The wife would sit back with the other two sons, and they would set up camp. Jim would explore with his son. So during his exploration, now I have to preface this by saying Jim knew nothing about cryptids, nothing about Bigfoot. He couldn't tell a Bigfoot from a cow if they came up to him, right? I mean, that's how inept this guy is when it comes to these things. So no idea. So he had stumbled across what appeared to be a footprint. It appeared to be human-like. In fact, he sent me a picture, and which was sharp about this guy for scale, he took 3 $1 bills, put it at the heel, and it went to the top of the toe. So 3 $1 bills from heel to toe. There was 3 toes. You could see a pronounced big toe, and then the other 2 toes, but I couldn't see any other. So 3 $1 bills, I measured it because, of course, I want to see how it's like 18. It's like 18 inches. A dollar bill is roughly 6 inches long. So this is about a 16-inch print. And then he put the dollar bill in the center at the widest part of the impression. And it was the bill that on either side of the bill, it was another inch of space. So, wow. And again, he's doing this over a 5-year period. He's always experiencing these things. He goes next time he's out in the woods with his son. They come across what he says structures. Now, I know that he has started to look up some things about Bigfoot because he started making mention of things that I'm familiar with. And a structure, he saw a structure in the woods which was shaped like an X. He knows it was not man-made, or he knows that it wasn't deadfall because in this X, they were crossed, and at the top of the X were the roots, the bulb of the roots hanging out, and on either side at the bottom of the X, it was firmly implanted into the ground. Okay, this is not man-made. No, this is not deadfall. This is something did this. He also came across tree breaks, which were 7-8 foot tall, and he said to me that they were fresh, they were snapped, they were twisted, and it looked fresh. And he says, man, somebody has to be pretty big to do that. And he says, why would they even do that? And he's camping in May. It's not like snow. Snow's not going to break and twist something. So I'm like reading on. I'm reading it. I'm reading the email. Then he came across something that appeared to be a large nest. And again, it was interwoven. I mean, it was like methodically put together, how you would see on like a chair where you mesh it all together. He says, man, this is our people. Now, he thinks that maybe a person could have done this nest as he described to me, but he doesn't know. So let's see here. So anyways, we're going to bring this to current, May 21st. Jim goes out into the woods and doesn't see anything this time. Gets back to his camp. From like daybreak to evening time, he hears these strange howls in the woods. Does not know what it is. I mean, he knows that it wasn't coyotes or anything of that nature. And in the state of Michigan, I don't even think in Clare, Michigan, there's not even wolves, but it was a very pronounced different sound. Got kind of scared, or not scared, but wondered what the heck is this? So moving forward, at that night, everybody is nestled in their tents. They had 2 tents set up. The husband, Jim, in one, the wife in another. 3 children, however they set up the tents, whatever, but it was two tents set up. Now, nighttime comes, and now he hears these sounds. They're more pronounced. His family is kind of scared. I mean, they're wondering, what is this? You know, he had a campfire going, and it was coming down to the embers, and he's scared. He doesn't want to get out of his tent. The howling stops. He gets out of the tent now. He looks around. He doesn't see anything, but yet the family, they're scared. So they all decide to get in and convene in their single tent. So they all crammed in this tent, all 5 of them. They attempt to go to sleep. Half hour goes by. This yelling and screaming, these howls are now more pronounced, and it's loud, and it's getting closer and closer to their campsite. Within, as he describes, it's within several feet of the tent. All of a sudden, the howling stops. Now, the tent is being pelted by rocks. He says about the size of a golf ball or smaller. And it's just bombarding this tent. The people inside the tent, they're frantic. He's scared. The howling starts. Now, he hears somebody or something running through the campsite. He describes it as bipedal, heavy footfall, and he says that he was thinking there was more than one. It had to have been like 2 or 3 of something that he does not know. Again, Jim knows nothing of Bigfoot or anything of this nature. This family is petrified. They are out of their wits. And then he hears this crash run through camp. I mean, it's a crash, a loud crash, loud footfall, howling, screaming, panicking. The wife is crying. The kids are all upset. It stops. He doesn't want to get out of his tent at this point. I mean, they don't want to move. They are petrified, paralyzed with fear. Finally gets up enough, the will, the ambition to finally make it out of his tent. As I made mention, they all got in the one tent together. He's looking for that second tent that the wife and the kids were in. It's gone. He's looking around. 20 yards from the tree line, it was dragged all the way to the edge of the tree line. A shambles, destroyed. Now, as I made mention, the fire got down to embers, casting a shadow in the background. You know how you look over the fire, you see the wood line, he sees his tent. He sees 3 sets of saucer-shaped glowing eyes, reddish and green, just sitting in the wood line, peering in.
Oh, my.
At him. Needless to say, Jim and his family no longer camp. And I read that story. I reached out to him. And we're going to have a talk, because one of the things that we do on our show is, if you've got an encounter, as I had one, Texas had one, we know what it feels like to be scared. So I'm going to be getting in touch with this guy, Jim, and try to help him through this, because I tell you what, I went through some hell with my encounter, but I tell you what, that takes the cake, Dave, and my heart goes out to this guy and his family. It does. It's wrecked his love of nature now.
Well, it's better to be safe than sorry. And you know what? This is why I never bring a tent out to the forest, man. Never bring a tent out to the forest. Just something's going to happen. That's the time something is going to happen. And it isn't going to be pleasant. It isn't going to be good. And I'm just not taking that chance. Never mind just Sasquatch, my friend. Bears, cougars, porcupines, some rascally raccoon wanting to break in and steal your beef jerky.
Hey, and who knows if this is even Sasquatch, right? Or what type of cryptid is this? I've got to send that print picture over to Duke. I don't have it on my computer. I'd show it right now. It's somewhere stashed in my phone. But, I agree with you, Dave. I don't like the fact that I can't see anything. If I'm camping, hey, man, give me a hammock, right? And I can at least be out in my surroundings because I do not like to not know what's going on in my environment. So yeah, I'm 1,000% in agreement with you.
Rob, tell everybody in the 90 seconds where they can find you and Big Tex and everybody to do with Bigfoot.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Type it out on YouTube and hit the subscribe button if you would. Texas Front Porch. Please do the same. Subscribe. We've got a great shows lined up. We've added a fourth show. We do Texas Front Porch with him and Jason McLean. We do brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, me and Tex. That's noon. Mine is noon Central. Texas is 6:30 Central Monday. Wednesday, a new show just debuted. Jason McLean questions everything. It's not really cryptid, but it's everything crazy. I mean, it's awesome. It's a great show. And I'm proud to present a fourth member of our show. We have the lovely Georgia Peach. Jessica Jones is joining us. She's going to have a show on Friday night. And I don't think anybody's doing this, Dave. It's going to be true crime, but with a spin. She is a remote viewer, and she's going to utilize her skills in true crime. But it's not going to be your average murder mystery. It's going to encompass what potential cryptid activity. So we're going to combine all these four fabulous shows together. You guys are missing out if you don't subscribe to brunch to Bigfoot Michigan Rob and Texas Front Porch. We do simulcasts, and we're growing, we're expanding, and I can't thank you enough, Dave, for having me on to announce that.
Always.
And man, I love you to death, brother.
Always, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, one of the only people with a podcast that we will put our name behind. How about that? Bigfoot Michigan Rob doing the Bigfoot report, cryptid report, coming up next. Dave 101. Then we got the news. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Oh, now Super Duke shows up. Awesome show, Bigfoot Michigan Rob.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah. You know what he was doing? Tonight was hair washing night for Duke.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, total hair washing night. Oh, by the way, I must condition twice. Wash once, condition twice.
He tried to tell me he has all this backlog of work to do, right? He's got all this editing to do.
Bullshit.
And you know what? I know he was washing that hair.
Oh,
he was washing all the 95 hairs he has left,
Oh, no way, man. He's got that beautiful, beautiful mane in the back. Okay.
I love it, man. He knows I'm kidding, man. He's got the great hair. Great hair.
Oh, yeah.
For a guy that just turned 60, man, who does what he does, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. I love you, Duke, buddy.
We love World Bigfoot Radio, Duke, around here. We do.
I love everybody in your chat, too, you guys. You all rock. That's why, one of the reasons I come on, of course, is great content by Dave Scott and Spaced Out Radio. But you people in chat are awesome, too. I love you all. Thank you.
Always love you, buddy. And
right.
I'm very proud that you are going to be part of our Vegas party, April 22nd to 24th in Las Vegas. And trust me when I say this, big guy, I got a giant hug for you when I finally meet you. Big handshake and a giant hug.
Great, because I'm a hugger. I'm a personal guy, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
No problem. Rob, do us a favor. When you get back in the chat room there, put your link in for your show, so that way everybody can grab it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I will.
All right. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, everybody. And there comes the heartburn from the old chicken. Oh. Oh, another radio trick here, people. Always have a giant tub of Tums around you. Always. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. I had butter chicken for dinner tonight. It was so damn good. And I will eat it again tomorrow because I have leftovers. But it always hits me. Hi, Terrible Times. The gorgeous Natalie in the UK, right there. Look at her waking up early in the morning looking all sprite and perky. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. Christopher Douglas, how are you? Welcome to our chat room. What should we do the blog on tonight? Terrence Brown. Dave, I might have to take the best hair challenge with you in Vegas. I think I may have you. Good on you, man. Good on you. I tell you what, if you got me beat, I will personally buy you a drink. If you got me beat, because I'm going to tell you right now, I am getting my hair done for Vegas. The beard is going to be colored back to normal. Not going to have the Santa look going on. All right? I take that challenge. I'm going to have it flat ironed, looking just fresh and beautiful. You can't win, Terry. You just can't. I know you're laughing right now and probably doing one of these. Okay? No way, man. You can't win. Well, maybe. Just a drink. Just a drink. Dave has enough dinners planned. E. Niles, how are you? Welcome, buddy. Sweet Tony D, good morning to you. Rock star hair for Terry Brown. Holy cow. I'm starting to get a little nervous here. Maybe I bit off more than I can chew. Terry, it's going to be good to meet you down there, man. 35 days. 35 days. That's it. I want to say thank you to John, Thomas, Eddie, ×2, and Surf Jer with the hat trick tonight of her super chats. Very much appreciate it. We're going to kick off the third hour here, or the final half hour here, right away. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again where I get into the rant. It's Dave 101.
It's time for Dave
All right, here we go. I learned something this past weekend from somebody who I very much trust. I got a late-night phone call on Sunday from a good friend who is very involved with the entire UFO phenomena.
Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com. Today, what business needs most is creativity. So let's create new possibilities, from intelligent automation to cloud management that requires less management. Let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create. Learn more at IBM.com.
That is a word that you are going to hear more and more and more of on Spaced Out Radio. Why? Well, let me tell you why. Because this person threw me for a wrench. And I'll be honest with you, I've been thinking about it ever since that conversation. What if the phenomena is all of us? Yes, you, and even you over there. What if the phenomena is all of us? What if we are every day creating the phenomena? Yes, even you. This is what I am weirded out by. Because I always thought when I got into this field 7 years ago that everything was separated. Ghosts were ghosts, paranormal was paranormal, supernatural was supernatural, the cryptid world was doing its own thing in the forest, aliens came from the sky, and somewhere deep out there, John Teeter, the time traveler, was running around predicting different timelines than what we were on right now. But what if life is all about the phenomena? Everything we do affects it. Now think about this. Take the Philip experiment from a number of years ago. This happened at a university here in Canada, out east, where literally they had a number of people create a tulpa that they named Philip that was causing paranormal activity to happen within their university. And paranormal activity started happening. So, did we create that? And if we did, how did we create that? By just putting our thoughts, our energy, and our manifestations into it? So if we're doing that with a tulpa, what else are we manifesting? What else do we have the power to shift? Look, it's been proven on radio stations that when they do a call out for, hey, let's put all our love and vibes into somebody, where certain people have been healed, weather patterns have been changed. Doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does. And it's made me wonder a little bit more, because I'm not a deep guy. I'm not. But this has got me thinking big time here. What if we all have the ability to summon ultra-terrestrials, extraterrestrials, interdimensionals? We have the ability to jump different timelines, aka the Mandela effect. We have the ability to travel outside our bodies, remote view, astral travel, and see whatever we want. It's really hard to fathom because all of this seems so sci-fi. It seems like we should not be able to have these intuitive powers, but what if we do? What could we do with them? How could we make this better? But maybe we don't learn about them because there's too much evil on this planet already that those who have the ability to do so will use it for nefarious reasons rather than for the good of every human on this planet. That always seems to be the case. There's always got to be that one dude who ruins everything. But think about it. Look, I'm not about to get into this whole John Lennon type of imagine all the people living life in peace. I'm not going to do that. But I will say this. I will say that the phenomena is all around us. It's there at any time, and it has the ability to literally bring us to wherever we want to go. Maybe it's an illusion, maybe it's an imagination, but maybe that's what life is. Do we know? Do we really die? Do we really believe that science is a one-and-done project? Yeah, we're all ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Because I'll be honest with you, if that is the case, that is going to be a major letdown when I die. Major, major letdown. Because old Davey kind of likes this whole living thing. Living is fun. Living is good. And as stressful as it could be at times, it's sure the heck not long enough. But imagine if reincarnation is real. Imagine if the Hindu religion has it right. That, you finish up here, you go up, and you're like, hey, I want to be a butterfly next, or hey, I want to go swim with the sharks, but I don't want to be the shark food, because that'll really suck. Maybe, I'll be a great white or something like that. One of them super sharks that's out there. All right? This is what I think about. What if that is true? How cool would that be? Maybe it isn't about lessons, because there is no end, but maybe it's about just enjoying the time that we have. It's like going to Disneyland except for life, where one time you get to be a human. The next time you can be the human's pet dog who's really treated awesome and get steak bites for dinner. The next time, well, you may have to have a bad one every now and again where literally you are a fly that gets hit and eaten by a Venus flytrap. Or maybe you are the last one of your thylacine clan and you are literally going to go extinct. And you're the last one. That would really suck. Okay, because you got to take good with the bad. Nothing ever goes easy. But the phenomena is what it counts by. And it is everywhere. It is who we are. It is what we are doing. And maybe that's how we create the ability to talk to those who are higher up. Higher up being extraterrestrials, ethereal beings. Because we're all connected. We're all supposed to have that ability. For some, we could say it's our God-given right, if you believe in the God sort of thing. It requires an open mind. It requires an open study. It requires a little bit of meditation with a little salt and pepper on the side. Because you always need a garnish somewhere. But I really do believe that this is true. At least I want to believe. And as scary as it is, imagine what we would be able to accomplish if we actually tapped into the phenomena. Now, many people over time have said they have, myself included. There are those who could say that they can summon UFOs. There are those who say they can telepathically communicate with the dead or extraterrestrials from some far-off star source like the Pleiades or the Zeta Reticuli. There are those who believe that they can channel any sort of being. There are those who believe they can communicate with animals. There are those who believe that the dead speak to them. Good on you. Who are we to say they can't? Conventional science says it's impossible. But what if, and I mentioned this to the fedora-wearing John Hudson, who's a scientist by trade, a futurist as well. Looks like Barry Gibb when he has a beard on. What if the phenomena is the source of a brand new science, beyond physics, beyond biology, beyond chemistry? What if it's a brand new science that we have right under our noses and we're not even studying? This is why it is so important that we watch the work of people like Jacques Vallée, that we watch the important work of Avi Loeb, Gary Nolan, Eric Davis. They may not have it 100% right, but they are interested in the phenomena. This is why we need to pay attention to what is happening at places like Skinwalker Ranch and all the other ranches and properties around the world that are having the same sort of phenomena happen. It is important because we're experiencing maybe what we should and maybe what we shouldn't. But we're not going to know unless we dip into both sides of the pool. We always like the shallow end, but very few of us really dig the deep end. So how far down the rabbit hole are you willing to go to figure out whether or not the phenomena is real to you? Now, to the majority of our listeners, they're going to be like, yeah, man, I'll go right down that rabbit hole. Are you ready for your house being haunted on a daily basis? Are you ready to see things out of the corner of your eye, turn your head, and it's not there? Are you ready to see lights in the sky or potential beings in your bedroom? Are you ready to take the opportunity that there might be a portal inside your closet that opens up to a monster's world where they need Scream in order to keep their electricity going? There are numerous thoughts behind this. However, due to societal norms, the majority of us will not go down that rabbit hole. We'll either be too scared, too fearful, too edgy, or too upset that it is possibly there. This is what I think about when I go to sleep at night. This is what I think about when I made the commitment to my good friend and guru Pascal back in 2013 or 2012 that I was ready to go down the rabbit hole. And I still don't have the answers. I still don't think I'm closer to it. But I can tell you this. It sure as hell is a fun time trying. And that is your Dave 101 for this week. Appreciate you tuning on in. If you're on our YouTube side, do us a favor. Leave a comment below what you think of the phenomena. I would appreciate that. And if you're on our radio side, let us know. Give us a comment on social media or Twitter. Let's get to the news. All right, Shirky Poo's got the news all set up for us. Let's see what she's got for us tonight. All right, here we go. If you were to cheat on an exam, how would you do it? Would you sneak in a cheat sheet? Maybe try to have your phone on your lap? Whatever your answer, it probably didn't involve surgical procedures, but these students took cheating to a completely new level and proved that they would go to any length to pass their exams at this particular school. 2 Indian medical students recently got busted for trying to cheat in an entrance exam at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Medical College in Indore. Supervisors discovered tiny Bluetooth speakers surgically implanted into their ear canals. The students were taken to the general medicine exam, or they were taking the general medicine exam with 13 others when a university squad of the Devi Ayya Bai University came for a surprise check. Dr. Sanjay Dixit, dean of the medical college, explained they found one student with a mobile phone, another student with some sort of Bluetooth device, not advice. The Bluetooth speaker was the same color as the student's skin. Upon requesting what was going on, they revealed that ENT surgeons had implanted the devices in their ears. In one of the student's cases, though, it might be understandable why he resorted to such extreme measures. He had been trying to get into medical school for 11 years, and this was his last shot. Perhaps there might have been another career option. But who does that? It seems that these college dreams of these two applicants have been dashed for good. Dr. Dixit said the electronic devices and answer sheets they used were confiscated. Their cases have been sent to investigators for further consideration. According to Dr. Dixit, the students clearly intended to cheat as they had purposefully concealed the Bluetooth devices. We think these microphones were surgically fitted into the ears of both students. Cases have been prepared against both of them. A committee at the DAVV will take the decision in their regard, said Renu Jain, vice chancellor of the school. The students on their part deny the accusations, at least in part. One of them claims that the Bluetooth speaker wasn't surgically implanted and could be removed with a pin. Big deal. You cheated. It was an awesome effort. You got caught. Now pay the punishment. It's the way it works. Some dude has been filmed filling his car with cooking oil. Cooking oil. Amid the surge in fuel prices, the man was spotted in a Tesco car park in Congleton, Cheshire, over the UK, by a shopper who couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. Sharing the clip on social media, Mark Rainford joked, "What fuel prices?" Since posting, the video has attracted plenty of attention from social media users, with some praising him for his smart move, but others warning fellow motorists not to try it themselves. One said, to use vegetable oil, you need a heater in the fuel system, and also the glycerin in the oil will eventually clog up the fuel system and homogenize the engine lubrication oil. The only way it works is to convert it to biodiesel using toxic and dangerous chemicals. Another commented, don't go putting veg oil in your car or van unless it's the old type of diesel engine. You'll screw your engine up. It's too thick, and you'll blow the diesel pump up, and especially don't put it in a petrol car or van. Others claimed it would run just fine. Just use cooking oil. But will it? Well, while vegetable oil can potentially be used as a biodiesel if your fuel has a diesel engine, it's certainly not recommended, particularly when poured directly from the bottle like the fella in the video. Yeah, don't do that. It's an expensive fix. You may cry about gas, but it's a lot cheaper than a $10,000 diesel engine. Oh, bad camel. Bad camel. One pissed off camel. A camel escaped from a Tennessee petting zoo, killing 2 people. Yep, the camel escaped and authorities received reports of a loose camel near Shirley Farms in Obion, about 160 kilometers northeast of Memphis. The report said the camel was attacking people. When authorities arrived, they found 2 unconscious victims on the ground, and the camel was there still on the loose. The Sheriff's Department and the Tennessee Highway Patrol came around, and they tried to aid the victims and bring them to a safe location. The camel attacked a county sheriff's office as well, officer's vehicle as well, then moved towards deputies who were attempting to remove a victim to emergency services vehicle. It was at this time that they decided, well, this camel's had too much fun partying all around, started to become a nuisance, and they had to put it down at the scene. The 2 victims, identified as Bobby Matheny and Tommy Gunn, did succumb to their injuries, pronounced dead on the scene, and inspectors from the USDA have noted alleged animal care and regulatory issues at the petting zoo before, and I'm sure we haven't heard the last of this one. I want to say a big thank you to Bigfoot Michigan Rob for coming on in for the Cryptid Report, the big man, the storyteller, Swamp Dweller, for coming on in, sharing with us another spooky story. And, of course, our main man, Tom Whitmore, for coming on in and talking all about Mj12 tonight. We want to say a big thank you and hello to all of our new listeners on Odyssey Radio at odysseyradio.com, as well as live on iHeartRadio, for joining us tonight as we add a new digital network to our family. We are very proud to be a part of them, and we plan on owning the night with all of you listening in on Odyssey as well. So get used to us, because we're not going anywhere. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Do us a favor, get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
We could tell you exactly why Bombas socks, t-shirts, and underwear are so comfortable. We could talk about our soft fabrics, or how we donate one item for every item you buy. But we think our customers said it best. So we hired some professional voice actors to read real customer reviews.
Bum diggities on my piggies.
It's like being hugged by an angel.
I borrowed a pair from my son and didn't want to give them back.
Give an item when you buy an item and get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/comfy. That's BOMBAS.com/comfy.
Magnolia Health is made for Mississippi. A statewide network of specialists and primary care physicians at more than 17,000 locations. Community outreach programs and quality jobs for nearly 400 Mississippians. Our commitment to building healthier communities in Mississippi has never been stronger. Learn more at magnoliahealthplan.com/benefits.